Hello, my tuner, fabulous here, my channel, I'm Jacob for Book 4, and today we're going to talk about a reread discussion. Here's the thing, skip this video if you think I'm being immature. Skip this video if you think my opinion is stupid. Skip this video if you think I shouldn't be talking about a kid's book in a reread discussion. All those things are valid. One could also say I shouldn't be talking about YA, but like, that's what I read. I'm 23. But I honestly had a different book planned for this reread discussion this month. We'll talk about it next month. Also, hot-hitting topics, I tell you, on that one as well. This one, we are going to talk about in full spoiler detail, but if you honestly care about spoilers for this book, I don't know why. And that's not because it's because the book doesn't have anything to spoil. Also, it really is just like a 9-year-old book. So like you read it when you're 9. Normally, I'm assuming maybe a little less than that. Let's talk about it. And obviously by the title, you know what book this is. So it's not like I don't know why I'm trying to be vague about it. Let's jump into it. And that is Diary of a Lumpy Kid by Jeff Kinney. This follows Greg as he is thrust into middle school with his best friend, Rolly. I read it as a joke. To be fair, I have been curious about reading them for a while now, and a few things stuck out to me that I want to talk about in this video. I did give it a 1. This wasn't a reflection, whereas like I reread Science vs. Homo Sapiens and I did reflection on that. This is actually just a direct, like, we're gonna talk about it. You know, we're gonna get into the nitty gritty of a book that does not have any spoilers, so don't feel ashamed. I do want to say, if I'm shitting on your childhood, maybe look away. Because like, I'm not gonna be nice to this, even if it was written for a younger audience. It was written in 2008 or 2007, which means I would have been either going into 3rd grade or I would have been in 2nd grade when it came out, which means I probably didn't read it for a few more years. I probably read it intermediate to middle school is probably what I read, because I read like 5 of them, so it had to be a few years later. These came out pretty frequently when I was younger. It wasn't until I'm much older they started coming out every few years. There was actually, I think, a point where they were coming out like 2 or 3 a year, so you like pop these out real fast, and I think I can tell. The idea of this is to kind of be a representation of boys in middle school. I don't think this is a very clear representation, to be honest with you, at least not in the middle school I went to, but like, that's just me. I do think toxic masculinity, which is what the majority of this book comes down to, and reasons why I don't like it, are very clear and apparent in today's society, especially for younger boys. Oh my god. Like, boys themselves are toxic without knowing. Like, we are toxic without knowing. We say things to think we're funny, but in reality, it's really hurtful. And, like, that is either on the people who raised you or just on the things you're watching, the media you're consuming, basically how you were brought up and things are those lines, what is good and what is bad, or what you think will get the most laughs, which I think is normally what it comes down to, is that when somebody does something like something inside this book, they are only doing it to see, I'm going to say this and be shocking, because it's going to make the character laugh or the person laugh. And I do think there's a lot of things in here, such as the language that is involved. I think it's simply in here to make people laugh. The opening image of the book starts out with the word sissy, specifically towards Greg, as he is thinking of a moment that could possibly come up if someone realized he had a diary, which obviously him having a diary shouldn't matter. That's toxic. Just see like the toxic comics. You know, he really wanted a journal and he was really mean to his mom about it. In the opening pages that he gets pushed onto the ground and called a sissy, which is another word for a gay person, because he has a diary, and obviously that makes him gay. That is a common theme throughout the rest of the book. There's a whole sequence dealing with Barbies that we're gonna hop into. I guess we'll talk about right now, where he wants a Barbie dream house for a cool G.I. Joe set, and his dad is obviously very much against this because it's a girl toy. I'm using genders here, I hope you guys realize, just because it's the way it's talked about in the book. Obviously, I believe anything is for any gender. I really don't have a preference on anything. I don't think there should be, in my opinion. And because it's a girl's toy, and that girl's toy, like, it will be really looked upon downly on, like, his family. I could relate to, but that's besides the point. And so he ends up going to his uncle, who ends up actually giving him like a really expensive Barbie doll because he misunderstood what he was asking for, or maybe that's all he could afford. Who really knows? And it doesn't really tell you, which is why I said it's up in the air. And so Greg actually was not too mad with the getting a Barbie doll. Like, he thought, oh, I can incorporate this into like my playtime, it'll be fine. His dad was like, I'm gonna ground you for life if you don't like get rid of it. So they ended up getting rid of it. It was like a whole thing. The other thing I want to address here, because I think that was pretty egregious, and I think it's just really proven once again that toxic masculinity really does come from the people you are born into, and also the things that you surround yourself by. As if his dad was being much more kind and caring towards this, saying, oh, we can get at this because mom was like, oh, we can get you a dream house, that's fine. But his dad was the one who was against it, and his mom, I guess, didn't have a say, which I guess is a whole other conversation to have as well. And I don't even know if like their parenthood is even discussed in later ones, as they're normally used for jokes and actual serious conversations, which makes sense. I mean, I'm taking this like it's serious, but the book itself is taking itself as a comedy, which I just think I'm not really impressed with the jokes that were held, right? So then we have the whole conversation about bullying, which is the main part of this conversation I want to talk about. Toxic masculinity is a huge part of this book, and I think it should be something that there should be like, hey, the things that are represented here are not really represented, and you should not feel this way. Honestly, a lot of these jokes should not even be jokes anymore. But that being said, let's talk about the bullying. Greg himself goes through a ton of bullying throughout the entire book, which is supposed to make the character sympathetic because he's also talking about how bullying is bad most of the book. Then we go over to his best friend, Rolly, who plays a very big character who you can obviously tell Rolly has something possibly wrong with him. I feel like the way he's represented here, which could just be the drawings and or the conversation because we're falling underneath Greg's point of view, that it could just simply be that Greg thinks he does and that he really doesn't, but he comes off as autistic in the book. And Greg, in multiple occasions, the one that I think is the most horrible is the bike one, makes fun of him in front of other people, makes fun of him to his face, makes him do things that he does not want to do. He is a horrible bullying friend. And yet you have these long passages about how Greg is bullied and how wrong that is. But it's okay to bully your friends because there's no backlash. Anything he does to Rolly is fine. There is nothing that is wrong against it, which is really annoying. And I think it just presents a bad message saying that if you're mean to your friends, oh, that sucks, but don't be mean to other people. I just don't think it lines up, and it really ended up just like really making me aggravated. And the last thing I want to talk about is the girls in this book. There is a group of girls that our main character really likes. He uses the word hot a bunch of times to describe them, how they look, and it was very objectifying towards like a 10-year-old, which is already uncomfortable. He ends up trying to do things to change his body to make them like him, which I feel like every kid goes through. Like you're like, oh, I like that person. Maybe they'll like me back if I do something that they like. So I think that's fine and relatable. I don't think the way it went about or the actions that were taken were good, but like the idea was fine. I just don't really like the dialogue mentioned towards the females throughout the group. It was a lot more like locker room talk, which I hate that statement, but it's like that's what's being used. So like locker room talk, but for like 10-year-olds, and it just felt me very uncomfortable. But guys, that's it. That's my reread discussion for Diary of a Kid. If you guys enjoyed, please give me a big thumbs up. I don't know, this is a weird video to say that in, but yeah, let me know what you guys think of Diary of a Kid. What are your guys' thoughts and opinions? You guys agree, disagree? And let me know in the comments. Please be kind and things. For some reason, I really just think there's a backlash here waiting to happen, but I think it's an important conversation, and if you don't agree with me, that's perfectly fine. No one is saying you have to agree with me. Just look at these points and see if you understand where I'm coming from, and if you don't, hey, that's on you. That's not on me, and you can have your own opinion. All right, thank you for watching, and goodbye.